Hey, welcome to the Idea to Launch Show. My name is Lisa Zufall. I will be your host today, and I have a very special guest with me today, and I'm excited to get him introduced to you. But before we get started, I would like to say thanks to our sponsor, Studio Americana. The studio that we are in today is a professional podcast studio in Golden Valley, Minnesota. They offer comprehensive services for creating podcasts and live streams. They have professional consulting. So if you want to know how or why, or if you should, contact Ian at Studio Americana and he can help you figure that out. They have turnkey voiceover studios, audio editing for any level of project. They are fully staffed by experienced broadcast professionals, and you can host live or recorded shows at any time. For Studio Americana, their number is 612-272-7970. Again, 612-272-7970.
And they're great people. They're
Oh,
very friendly just walking in
you
the
love
door
the
this
studio.
morning.
Isn't
Yeah,
it beautiful?
fantastic.
He did a great job. Ian put all this together himself with his team.
Wow. Very nice. It's incredibly comfortable and incredibly professional. Yeah. And I get along with the studio as well as I get along with Lisa, so it's great.
So we should introduce our mysterious voice here,
Yes,
huh?
probably.
I am so glad that you came and were able to join us today. This is Jeffry Brown, folks. And if you don't know Jeffry, he's a mentor. He's an amazing man. He's got quite the experience under his belt in the world of entrepreneurship, business, marketing. I mean, we could go on, couldn't we, for a while?
Whatever you want to make up, Lisa. That's great. I love it.
You started with, I know your story because you started with Steve Jobs.
I did. I started with Steve Jobs. I was very fortunate to work at Apple in the early days, and I'm talking way early, 1980s, early 80s, and it's been a good time there helping figure out what the future of Apple was going to look like.
Isn't that amazing?
Exciting, yeah.
That just makes me go, wow, that's what an incredible time.
It is looking back.
Right.
You know, at the time, it was just another job. It was just like working someplace. And in fact, a lot of people thought we were really crazy at Apple because we were trying to change the world in a whole different way than the way businesses ran at that time. And so a lot of people would not have liked to work at Apple because we were doing things so differently. A little bit goofy.
I know some advice that you gave me once was don't worry about the money.
Don't worry about the money. That was a favorite Steve Jobism, is that we'll do it for the value for people and create the best user experience, and the money will come. So you got to do what you love to do and figure out why you want to do it, and the rest will happen. And it's very true, because I can tell you this, that when I got fired from Apple, which was actually a very good thing, I'm proud of the fact that I was fired when Steve Jobs was fired the first time, so I was close enough to that group. But everything I did after that time from an entrepreneurial standpoint was because I wanted to do it and because there was an opportunity to do it, and it was never about the money, but the money always seemed to happen, at least enough to survive off of.
So tell us about some of your other startups, because I think Jeffrey is a very humble gentleman here, but he's also
Thirsty.
Extremely successful in what he does because he's thoughtful about it. He understands, because he's been down the road a few times, he understands how to get you there. So why don't you talk to us about a few of the startups that you've got going on?
Well, I think one of the greatest things about being entrepreneurial, or I won't even call myself entrepreneurial, I call myself a change agent. And what I mean by that is I'm always willing to accept or try something new if it makes sense. And so right after I left Apple, another friend of mine and I got into the sports marketing business, and kind of by chance, because we weren't doing anything that summer. We played a lot of golf at Pebble Beach because my friend's friend was the pro down there, so we were able to go down there and not have to spend all those dollars that other people did. But through that, we got asked to help them with a project with AT&T, which was their corporate sponsor that had taken over sponsorship for the former Bing Crosby Pro-Am. And this was like one of the first companies to really put their name on a sporting event, especially on the PGA Tour. And so when they went to renew that contract, RJ and a couple of the other people at Pebble Beach said, you guys think a little differently. Maybe you can help us come up with an idea on creating value for them, because they're not sure if they're getting the right kind of value from their contract out here as a sponsor. So we came up with some ideas. We ended up getting hired by AT&T to help them, and that was kind of the start of Miller Brown Marketing. And Miller Brown Marketing grew to be a fairly significant sports marketing company. So again, it was taking advantage of an opportunity that just got presented to us and figuring out how to make it happen and make it work for people. So it worked for us, but it all worked even better for all our clients.
So how do you think differently?
How do I think differently?
Yeah.
I don't worry about anything. And I think that a lot of business people, when they're starting any kind of new business, they start it and they end up having so much fear of doing it right and so much fear of making sure they have all the right pieces in place at all times that sometimes they just don't let the genuineness of their passion come out to allow things to happen. So I don't fear anything. I just think differently in trying to look at an opportunity from a perspective of a client or the people that we're trying to serve or who we're trying to sell to, and not from my perspective.
I love that stuff. Okay.
Well, that's why we get along.
So as a successful businessman and mentor, what do you see as one of the biggest opportunities that startups and entrepreneurs should take advantage of right now?
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge question, and I don't have an answer. If I did, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in the studio. I'd be out trying to get something going. There's so many opportunities out there today because what technology has allowed us to do is it allowed us to be able to see what's going on around the world at any moment.
Right.
And if you take a look at different things that are happening out there, there's always some little niche that you can find to penetrate. Now, here's an example. I'm currently working with a beverage, launching a new beverage in the market.
It's delicious.
And thank you. And that's Sarah. Sarah Nichols was a student at McAllister 2 years ago. She graduated last year, and she had this idea while she was going to school over there. Mm-hmm. And I met her and loved her passion for her new beverage. Mm-hmm. And so we actually are out in the market with it now, as you know. But people said, why are you taking a new beverage to the market? There's so many beverages out there.
Not like this one.
It's so fragmented. I mean, that was why we took it to the market. Mm-hmm. Most people would say, well, it's crazy to take a new beverage into the market because there's hundreds of them on the shelf every day. Mm-hmm. But that's exactly why it's a good opportunity, because it is hundreds on the shelf every day, and people aren't as loyal as they used to be to the beverages. So
right.
people
and
weren't
people
loyal
are
to
looking
Coke.
for
Yeah.
more,
They're
I
looking,
believe.
Yeah, they're all searching. They're searching for what their beverage is. And so we created a beverage that is good for you. No sugar, no GMO,
in a can.
all natural and
I
products.
love that. It's in a can, and
It's
it's
in a
good
can.
for you.
It's in a can, and it's good for you. And it's called RSVT.
Yeah.
And the name itself is a play on RSVP, to come to a party, because everybody's invited. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about what Sarah was looking for, and I think the passion that made this really work, is the fact that she believes that we all need to celebrate our lives every day.
I love that.
So again, it's about the client and not about the beverage. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to celebrate our lives every day, we need to do it together. And if we're going to toast to each other, we should do it with something that's good. Mm-hmm. And so RSVT became the name of the product. Number one, it was a play on RSVP. Everybody's invited to the party.
Right. I love that.
Second of all, it's made out of a black tea. So, and then we add natural.
It's all natural ingredients.
It's all natural ingredients. There's ginger, there's lavender, and there's, gosh, I should remember it. I can't. See, here we go. Ginger, lavender, and jasmine. Okay, so the three natural herbs that are added to it, and that's what creates the sweetness. So there's no artificial sweeteners. And so that's great.
And you're out on the market.
We're out on the market. We call it a pick me up with a purpose because
It's got some caffeine in it.
it has natural caffeine from the tea, so it gives you a little pick me up for those who about like a cup of coffee.
Yeah. So where could somebody pick some up?
They can't yet,
Okay.
and I say that because when we originally were going to go to market, our focus was to make this a non-alcohol alternative for craft brewers.
Awesome. Yeah.
So it was brewed so that if it was tapped like a beer, it actually had a head on it and it looked like a beer. So again, we wanted everybody to be able to celebrate it. And a lot of times people that go to a craft brewery don't necessarily like the choices of a non-alcohol Coke, Pepsi,
Right.
water, all these kinds of things. Because when they're drinking it and they have it in front of them, they feel a little alienated from the party that they're with because people go, well, why don't you party with us? Why don't you have a beer? Well, by crafting our tea to look like a beer, they felt like they were part of the party and they didn't have these questions on them. So we started going to market that way, but we had to can a number of cases to get through our FDA approvals for all our labeling and all those types of things.
Yeah.
So when we did that, we started sampling. And then the cans became popular, but we couldn't find a co-packer or a person to can the product for us. So we actually are creating our own co-packing facility in St. Paul. And so we'll be canning our own product along with a number of other products from other local entrepreneurs here in town. And that cannery will be ready hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and then you'll be able to find it out in the market because we've been very fortunate to have Burnix, which is a great company here in the Midwest that's a distributor of beverages that have picked us up, and they're going to get us out in a lot of stores, hopefully. That's the plan.
Wow.
And so we'll be able to control our own destiny by being able to do our own packing and working with our great friends at Burnix Distribution. So soon you'll be able to find it in the marketplace. So we'll come back on and tell you that.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
We'll have Sarah on. She's marvelous. She's just
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
And, bring some samples.
I should have brought some samples. I didn't realize we were going to talk about RSVT, or I would have brought some samples.
Everything's on the table when you come in studio with me. So the next piece that I think would be interesting for our listeners would be the top 3 things advice for entrepreneurs and startups. What are the top 3 things that every entrepreneur or startup should have or search for?
Well, I think for entrepreneurs as well as anybody, be your genuine self. I think a lot of us have a tendency to put on airs when we think we need to, or we'll try to be somebody that we're really not to get somebody else to do something. But the reality is at least in my experiences and with the people that I've worked with since way before I had white hair, the more genuine you are, the more people respond to you, and you can create the kind of influences that you want from the people that surround you. So number one, in any time a new business that you're starting, be genuine, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else, and don't try to play up to somebody just because you think you should. If they don't resonate with what you believe, then they're probably not the right partner for you to be working with anyway.
Right.
That's one piece of advice.
Awesome.
Another piece of advice is most young entrepreneurs are afraid to take mentoring type advice or even advice from people that could be investors with them.
Okay.
And they feel that because they're the inventor or the idea person behind any new product or new company, that they have to know it all. The reality is they can't know it all.
No.
It's not possible.
Right.
And so if you get the right kind of mentors, and not necessarily mentors that have had the same experience in the businesses that you're trying to start or the services you're trying to start, but people that are willing to help you think on your feet and become agile and be able to respond to change very quickly are the ones that are going to allow you to grow the fastest.
Right.
So that's number 2.
Yes.
What do you ask for 3?
I asked for 3.
Number 3 is make sure that you start with why.
I love that book. I love that
Yeah,
man.
yeah, Simon Sinek.
He's amazing.
He has. I mean, I've been even back in the early days at Apple. Everything we did was based on why. I
Yeah.
mean, we did things because we were going to change the status quo and get people to think differently.
Yeah.
So we operated everything we did based on that, and we had to be able to articulate that when we did something. Many other companies that have grown to be big companies have started with why. Another example is Nike. When Phil Knight started Nike, his why was he was going to allow anybody to find their own athletic potential. It wasn't that he was going to build tennis shoes or create golf clubs or clothes. It was, we're going to allow anybody to find their own athletic potential. That's still the mantra and the why at Nike today, and that's why it's grown so big. And so Simon Sinek basically took the concept that a lot of these companies used and put science to us and figured out why the brain operates on that why. The why becomes the passion of the company. And from that passion.
And the compass.
And the compass, exactly. Because once you have your why, then you can figure out what your entire communications are, what your, what kind of your goals, kind of your mission, your slogan, all those things can be derived from the why.
Right.
So,
if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. And you heard Jeffrey, he recommends it. And if he recommends it, you should read it.
it's a great book.
So how can...
Or at least watch the TED Talk.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Because you can get
that's
that.
great,
Yeah.
too. Well,
fact,
anything that he puts out, I follow him on Facebook.
If you're on YouTube right now, when you get done listening to the show, but not until you're done listening to the show, go just do a search on Simon Sinek, and you can watch his TED Talk.
Right. He's coming out with a new book called How to Get to Your Why or something like that. It's like a workbook/book.
Yep.
And I'm really excited to get my hands on that thing. I think it's working with entrepreneurs. It's one of the things that I ask them is what's their why and why are they doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun. And I just go through tons of self-discovery myself working through that stuff.
Yeah. I have my own personal why. And
what is your personal why?
That I help people create positive momentum in their personal and professional life.
I love that. That's beautiful. So how can the Idea to Launch community support you? What can we do to help you or your startups, or what can we do to
just whatever feels good. It's all about feeling good, right? It's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. We've got a lot of disasters happening with the hurricanes but you know what's really, even though we see all these disasters going on and we see a lot of people losing their possessions and losing their stuff, it's just so heartfelt for me to see people coming together. Because the more people seem to lose, the more people seem to come together.
Right.
And I think that the only thing we all need to work together. That's just part of where life is. And I think a lot of us have forgot how to do that. It's become such and I won't call this money grubbing, but it's
a rat race.
It's a rat
like
race. And everybody feels like they have to make a lot of money to survive, to be successful.
Yep.
I really believe that the more successful you are, the more you're more interactive with other people. And your success comes from making them successful. So it's just think about that a little bit, and it might not work for everybody, but certainly something I think is of great value.
I agree. Who was it? I think it was Mr. Rogers. I just watched his video. Did you see that video?
I did not.
It's floating around, and it's Mr. Rogers talking about when terrible things happen to people, when disasters strike. And it was some interview. And he said the best advice that he got was his mom said, don't look at the disaster. Look at the helpers.
Yes.
Look at the people who are flooding, that are coming out from everywhere. One of the great stories is a friend of mine who lives in Texas. When the hurricane hit down there, she made a post about how people are coming from all over the country to help out. But some of the nonprofits, some of the organizations, they're already booked. They've got more than enough volunteers, and so they're starting to turn people away. And when you think of that, that is incredible.
Yeah. And those people that get turned away, there's a lot of other people that can be helped in other areas.
Exactly.
It isn't just the disasters in Texas and in Florida and other
They're all
places.
over.
It's all over the world. And,
Right.
and we're seeing people from all over the world coming together, too.
Ah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And if they don't have the physical means to help, they're doing it with financial means, which is great, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So can folks get in touch with you?
They can.
And how do they get in touch with you? Can they like you on Facebook or
They
LinkedIn?
they can link. My LinkedIn is Jeff Brown. I've got it listed as Jeffrey Jeff. So
And
that
when
you
you
can find
see
me.
his LinkedIn account, you'll know it right away.
Yeah,
And I pulled it, positively transforming your business and you by thinking differently. Jeffrey coaches and mentors executives and entrepreneurs. And it's not just those words that will catch your eye. He's got images in there too. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah, some
neat.
fun
I like
stuff.
that.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting that we're talking about Simon Sinek because I just wrote an article earlier this week about how to create evangelism in your company.
Okay.
That it's very important that not only do you create evangelists out in the marketplace, but that make sure that every one of your employees are your most important evangelists because they're the ones that are going to gain from helping grow the business. So
Right.
make your employees have to be the happiest employees in the world because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are going to make your company grow. And
It's
so
true.
I kind of wrote a little article about that, and it all was kind of based on Simon Sinek starting with why, that becomes the passion for how you even bring your employees into the company. So that just kind of timely that this is happening today,
Yeah.
that article is out there.
So find that article and share it out. Read it and share it out with folks.
Be great.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us on this special Idea to Launch show. It was fun for me. I hope it was fun for you. If it was, please like, share, comment. We look forward to seeing what you have to say and sharing us out with your community. We appreciate you.